There was a bustling salon in a small town where women gathered to share tales, laughs, and dreams. The owner of this popular salon was none other than a vibrant woman named Amahle. Known for her laughter that echoed through the walls, Amahle had a magnetic way of drawing women together. But beyond her skill with hair and charm, what set her apart was her relentless praise for her husband, Humalo. As her fingers braided hair, her voice wove stories of his honesty, his unbreakable integrity, and the bond they shared. The other women listened, their curiosity piqued, some even skeptical about the kind of man Hlumelo must be. Amahle's devotion was an everyday spectacle, sparking intrigue and envy among the women who spent their hours in her salon. For some, her praise was inspiring, but for others, it cast a shadow on their own relationships. Among them was Hlumelo, a striking young woman known for her beauty and her mischievous spirit. She was skeptical of Hlumelo's supposed loyalty, and as Amahle's stories continued to flow, an idea began to form in her mind. She whispered to a few women in the salon, and they giggled knowingly. Hlumelo, they decided, would put Hlumelo's loyalty to the test. Amahle had no clue about the whispering plans in her own salon. For her, Hlumelo's faithfulness was as solid as the earth. But Hlumelo was determined to challenge that belief. Her curiosity about Hlumelo's character was fueled by her own doubts and past experiences. She wondered if he would really be immune to the charms of a beautiful woman, a woman who, like herself, could effortlessly turn heads. The other women were eager to see how the test would play out. Whispers of this plan spread, and they waited with bated breath, imagining what might unfold. Would Hlumelo, the faithful husband, falter under the allure of beauty, or would he prove Amahle right? And as the days went by, Amahle remained blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to test her marriage. Unbeknownst to her, the very woman she had trusted in her salon would soon become the catalyst for a test of fidelity. Hlumelo began her plan one sunny morning, visiting Amahle's home under the guise of asking about the latest hair treatments. Amahle welcomed her with open arms, delighted to see her outside of the salon. To Hlumolo's luck, Hlumelo was around, tending to some garden work. He was an unassuming man with a quiet strength, the type who found joy in simple things. Hlumelo observed him closely, studying his demeanor as he exchanged a polite greeting with her. Hlumelo made a point of complimenting him, her eyes sparkling with just a hint of flirtation. To her surprise, Hlumelo responded warmly, but in an entirely respectful way. He thanked her and continued with his work, seemingly unaffected by her beauty. Hlumolo's confidence was shaken, but she wasn't about to give up after one encounter. She was used to getting attention, and Hlumelo's indifference only fueled her desire to break through his resolve. Over the next few days, Hlumelo found excuses to visit Amahle's home more frequently. She often brought gifts of food, claiming she wanted to share new recipes. Amahle was delighted by her generosity, unaware of the intentions behind each visit. Hlumelo, always polite, accepted her presence but kept a respectful distance. Hlumelo grew bolder, seeking moments when Amahle wasn't around to speak to Hlumelo directly. One evening, Hlumelo found Hlumelo in the backyard, alone. She took her chance, letting her voice drop to a seductive whisper as she complimented his hands and his kindness. Her words dripped with charm, her gaze intense. But Hlumelo only nodded politely, barely acknowledging her advances. His loyalty was strong, and his heart was firmly set on Amahle. Yet, despite his indifference, Hlumelo felt a flicker of determination. She decided that this would not be the last time she tried. This, after all, was only the beginning. The rumors of Hlumolo's plan had made their way back to the salon, and some of the other women began to hint at what was going on, speaking in veiled whispers when Amahle wasn't around. Amahle noticed the sudden hush whenever she entered the room, and a small worry took root in her heart. She wondered if the rumors were about her or, worse, about Hlumelo. Hlumelo continued to visit the salon as if nothing had changed, maintaining her usual cheerful demeanor. But behind her smile was a silent mission, and she kept her eyes on Hlumelo, more determined than ever to get a reaction from him. Amelie's heart ached at the sudden tension, though she couldn't quite place why. Little did she know, the foundation of her trust was about to be tested in ways she never anticipated. Hlumelo was relentless. She began showing up at Hlumelo's workplace, feigning surprise at seeing him there, offering to bring him food and drink. Her persistence started to make Hlumelo uncomfortable, yet he tried to brush it off, believing she meant no harm. However, each visit was more intense than the last, her words becoming more suggestive, her looks lingering a little longer. Amahle noticed a shift in her husband's mood. He became slightly distant, preoccupied with thoughts he couldn't quite share. Though he hadn't faltered in his loyalty, Hlumelo was burdened by the constant advances from a woman he couldn't avoid. Amahle sensed his unease, and it filled her with a gnawing suspicion. Though she trusted him deeply, a strange feeling of dread began to cloud her heart. One evening, after another tense day, Hlumelo finally confessed to Amahle. He spoke of Hlumolo's flirtations and his attempts to brush them off without causing a scene. Amahle was devastated, feeling betrayed not by her husband, but by Hlumolo, a woman she considered a friend. Her heart throbbed with anger, and she struggled to comprehend why Hlumolo would attempt such a thing. Amahle felt a need for confrontation, but Hlumelo, ever the voice of calm, advised caution. He believed that Hlumolo's persistence would eventually die down, and he was resolved not to let it affect his marriage. Amahle agreed, but deep within, a storm of emotions raged. She felt betrayed, hurt, and confused, and she knew that the coming days would test her strength as a wife and a friend. The tension spilled into the salon, creating an icy silence whenever Amahle and Hlumolo were in the same room. Amahle could no longer bear the sight of her, and the other women sensed that something was wrong. Hlumolo continued to feign innocence, acting as if she had done nothing wrong. Her beauty had often protected her from accusations, and she wore her charms like armor. Amahle struggled to hold her anger, her mind racing with thoughts of what might have happened if Hlumelo hadn't been so steadfast. Yet, she couldn't bring herself to confront Hlumelo openly, worried it might create more rumors. And so, the salon continued its charade of normalcy, the tension hanging thick in the air, waiting for a breaking point. As days passed, Amahle couldn't shake her feelings of doubt and hurt. Though she trusted Hlumelo, Hlumolo's actions had planted a seed of unease. She began to notice every little thing, interpreting Hlumelo's innocent actions as signs of something deeper. He would smile at a joke, and she would wonder if Hlumelo had seen that same smile. Each day became a subtle test of her trust, and it pained her to realize how fragile her sense of security had become. Hlumelo noticed Amahle's change in mood, and his heart broke. Despite being honest, he felt like he was losing her trust. Determined to fix things, he made efforts to reassure her, bringing her small gifts and spending more time with her. Amahle appreciated his gestures, but the shadow of Hlumolo's intentions still lingered, creating a wedge that even Hlumelo's kindness struggled to break. Hlumolo, on the other hand, was growing frustrated. Her attempts to seduce Hlumelo had all but failed, and his polite refusals were beginning to wear on her ego. Unwilling to give up, she decided to try one last time. She arranged to, accidentally, meet him at a secluded cafe, hoping to catch him off guard. When Hlumelo arrived at the cafe and saw her, he was visibly uncomfortable. Hlumelo leaned closer than necessary, her voice a seductive whisper as she tried once again to break through his defenses. Hlumelo finally confronted her, his voice firm as he told her that he was committed to Amahle and would not betray his wife. Hlumelo, embarrassed and furious, stormed out, realizing that Hlumelo's loyalty to Amahle was unshakable. Rumors of the incident at the cafe spread quickly, reaching the salon within hours. Amahle was devastated when she heard, feeling a mixture of relief and betrayal. She trusted Hlumelo, but the fact that Hlumelo would go to such lengths made her question everything. Gathering her strength, she decided it was time to confront Hlumelo in the salon, in front of everyone. Amahle's voice was steady as she addressed Hlumelo, asking why she would betray a friend's trust. Hlumelo, cornered and ashamed, tried to downplay her actions, but Amahle was relentless. The other women watched in stunned silence as Amahle's heartbreak poured out, her voice filled with pain. Hlumelo was left speechless, her beauty and charm powerless against the raw honesty of Amahle's words. After the confrontation, Hlumelo became the talk of the town. Her once respected beauty was now seen in a different light, and the community turned against her. The women who had once envied her now pitied her, and she found herself isolated. Hlumelo realized that her actions had consequences far beyond what she had anticipated, and the weight of her decisions finally sank in. Amahle, meanwhile, became a figure of admiration in the community. Her strength and dignity inspired others, and the women of the town rallied around her, offering their support. Hlumelo's loyalty became a point of pride for everyone, and he was held up as an example of a true husband, a man who would not waver in the face of temptation. Amahle and Hlumelo grew closer than ever after the confrontation. Though the ordeal had been painful, it had strengthened their bond, allowing them to confront their vulnerabilities together. Hlumelo felt a renewed commitment to his marriage, and he went out of his way to show Amahle how much he valued her trust. Amahle, in turn, began to heal, slowly releasing the doubt that had taken hold of her heart. She realized that Hlumelo's actions had spoken louder than any rumors, and she allowed herself to believe in his love once more. The salon returned to its usual lively atmosphere, but the air was different. Amahle was more resilient, more confident, and the women admired her strength. Hlumelo, now ostracized from the salon and the community, found herself alone with her regrets. She had thought she could charm her way into Hlumelo's heart, but her plan had backfired spectacularly. She began to understand the pain she had caused Amahle, and guilt gnawed at her, growing stronger with each passing day. In her solitude, Hlumelo reflected on her choices, wondering if there was any way to make amends. Her reputation was ruined, and she feared that Amahle would never forgive her. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to try, if only to find some semblance of peace. One evening, Hlumelo mustered the courage to visit Amahle. She arrived at her doorstep, nervous and remorseful, hoping that Amahle would be willing to listen. Amahle answered the door, her expression guarded but curious. Hlumelo took a deep breath and apologized, her voice choked with regret as she explained the jealousy and insecurities that had driven her actions. Amahle listened silently, her heart torn between anger and compassion. She could see the sincerity in Hlumolo's eyes, and though the pain was still fresh, she felt a sense of closure as Hlumelo poured out her remorse. Amahle didn't offer immediate forgiveness, but she acknowledged Hlumolo's apology, leaving the door open for a possible reconciliation. The days that followed were a time of healing for everyone involved. Amahle focused on her marriage, grateful for Hlumelo's unwavering loyalty and the strength they had built together. The salon became a sanctuary for her, a place where she could channel her emotions and find comfort in her community. Hlumelo, though still shunned by many, began to rebuild her life. She understood that trust was something that had to be earned, and she worked quietly to regain the respect she had lost. It was a slow and painful process, but she was determined to make things right, even if it took a lifetime. Amahle found a renewed sense of purpose through her experiences. She began to counsel the women in her salon, sharing her story and the lessons she had learned. Her wisdom became a source of guidance, and women from all over the town came to hear her speak about loyalty, trust, and forgiveness. Amahle's words inspired others, and she became a respected figure in the community, a symbol of resilience and integrity. After months of soul-searching, Hlumelo returned to the salon, this time as a changed woman. She had worked hard to rebuild her life, and her once flirtatious demeanor was replaced by a quiet humility. Amahle welcomed her back, offering her a chance to prove that she had learned from her mistakes. The other women were hesitant at first, but Amahle's acceptance of Hlumelo set the tone, and slowly, the community began to forgive. Amahle's decision to forgive Hlumelo was not easy, but it brought her a profound sense of peace. The experience had taught her the power of compassion, and she realized that holding on to resentment only caused more pain. Her forgiveness was a gift not only to Hlumelo but also to herself, allowing her to move forward with a light heart and a clear mind. With the drama behind them, Amahle and Hlumelo's bond grew even stronger. They became known as the couple who had withstood the ultimate test, and their love became an example to others in the community. The salon flourished, filled with laughter and camaraderie, and Amahle continued to guide and inspire the women who came to her for wisdom. Hlumelo remained a part of the community, forever changed by the experience. She learned that beauty and charm were fleeting, but honesty and humility were the true measures of character. In the end, the community became closer, their bonds strengthened by the lessons they had learned from Amahle and Hlumelo's story. And as for Amahle and Hlumelo, they remained inseparable, their love an unbreakable force that had triumphed over even the most daunting of challenges. Years passed, and Amahle's salon continued to be the heart of the town, a place where women gathered not just to have their hair done, but to find companionship, share wisdom, and uplift one another. Amahle's story with Hlumelo became a local legend, a tale told by mothers to their daughters about loyalty, resilience, and the strength of true love. Through every braid, every style, and every conversation, Amahle left a mark on the lives of the women around her, a reminder of the unshakable power of integrity. Hlumelo, now a different woman, continued her journey of humility and redemption. She volunteered within the community, supporting women who were rebuilding their lives and teaching others about the value of honesty and loyalty. The experience had taught her profound lessons, and she never forgot the grace Amahle had extended to her. Though they would never be as close as they once were, Hlumelo and Amahle shared a quiet understanding, a bond born out of forgiveness and growth. As for Hlumelo, he remained the steady force in Amahle's life. His loyalty and unwavering support the foundation upon which they built a legacy of trust and respect. Their love story inspired others, and their family grew, with children and grandchildren who carried forward the values they had lived by. In her final years, Amahle looked out at the vibrant town, proud of the life she and Hlumelo had built. The salon had passed to her daughter, who carried on the tradition of creating a space where women could gather, feel valued, and be inspired. The legacy of Amahle and Hlumelo's faithfulness continued to be a beacon for all who knew them, a symbol of the beauty that lies in truth and the strength found in love untested by temptation. Amahle and Hlumelo's story became a timeless reminder that even the strongest bonds could be tested, but those grounded in loyalty and love would not only endure but flourish. The tale of their love lived on, an example for generations to come of what it meant to truly cherish and uphold the vows of the heart.